Hey y'all, just wanted to say, hey, what's up? And this is a quick video to introduce you to week 5. Yep, we are already headed quickly into week 5 of the semester. So, week 5 really introduces you to narrative as part of a way to analyze, okay, the narrative essay in analyzing using different frameworks, okay. You'll be introduced to the rhetorical appeals. There are 3 rhetorical appeals, and they come from Aristotle, um, Greek philosophy, Greek rhetorician. And those rhetorical appeals are pathos, which is an appeal to emotion, usually appeal to specific types of emotion, but generally it's appeal to emotion or appeal to passions. Okay, logos, which is the appeal to like logic, something makes sense, and then there's also ethos, which is appeal to credibility. Okay, now, you've often seen, witnessed, heard, watched all 3 of these rhetorical appeals in action, most predominantly in commercials, because they're used to persuade audiences to think a certain way, to act a certain way, to even be a certain way. Okay. They will never just tell you that they're using those rhetorical appeals, but most often commercials will, of course, use them. Movies use them. Things that you've read, of course, will make use of them. Some of them will make uses of um, certain rhetorical appeals more predominantly than others. Excuse me. But this is your opportunity in week 5 to learn more about the rhetorical appeals as you are analyzing another piece of writing, because in your analysis, you'll be analyzing, looking for the uses of those rhetorical appeals in your next piece of writing, which is Lainhart's Let the Cupola Be. Okay. You'll be doing that analysis, of course, on a PDF once again, and you'll be using the notes and sticky notes, sorry, and the highlighting function to take notes. And you'll, of course, be really looking at where and how Lainhart makes use of the rhetorical appeals, or if her piece makes use of the rhetorical appeals. Now, again, it's not just looking for, yes, she's using it here, but how is it being used? And is that use effective? Okay. Then you'll be asked to write a short little, I think it's 1 or 2 paragraphs or 2 or 3 paragraphs about the analysis itself. Now, I want to be clear here that in analysis, you're really looking for not just its use, but how it's being used. Okay. So that's different than a summary. A summary is just telling people, telling your audience the main point, the thesis of the reading, and then the way in which the author supports that main point. Okay. So, for example, in the other piece that you read, Shitty First Drafts, it was more of looking at how Lamont is talking about the writing process, because that's what she was actually talking about, the writing process, the fact that we should really pay attention to it and probably even use the writing process. Now, how she did that was a variety of different ways. She made some jokes. Okay, so you're supposed to laugh along, which is an appeal to emotion, because when you're making jokes, it's laughter, it's humor, it's just funny. Okay, she also offered up her own type of writing process. She talked about friends' writing processes, and that is a part of the credibility and using those bits and pieces of little stories, little anecdotes, as a way to build her credibility to write about this. She knows about this. It's a means of support. Okay. And then, of course, there was logos, which is logic. And she wrote about the process as she's writing, right? So it makes sense. Okay. Also, part of logos and credibility is that she's a prolific author. She talks about in her excerpt her writing when she talks about writing for the California magazine. So in that piece, That's part of the analysis, okay? Where you analyze not just what she's doing, but how she's doing, and also if it's effective in what's happening. So you want to pay attention when you're reading the Lainhart piece, and it's very short. It's not, I believe it's 2 pages, to how the rhetorical appeals are being used, and also whether it's effective in communicating her main point in the actual piece itself. Okay, so that's important. You have to look for their main point, look for the thesis, look for the purpose of writing Let the Coppola Be, and then look for the main points that the author uses to support their thesis. And then that's part of the summary. And then the analysis is how do they express this information? Okay. Now, this is an important part because as we move forward as a class, analysis will become really integral in your writing. So it's important to learn, hone, I should say, those analysis skills. Okay. There's not a whole lot to submit and turn in this week, but you do want to pay attention to dates and timelines, okay? It's going to be really important as we get closer to October when you'll be submitting the midterm that you keep up on assignments, keep up on those dates because, and this is to reiterate, when assignments are submitted after their due date, I get to them when I can, okay? It could be a day after, could be 2 days after, could be 3 days after, because I'm focused on assignments that were submitted on time. Okay, this is really important. Okay, I know you all have lives, I know you all have jobs, I know likely you have families or other commitments. It's part of the reason why you're even taking an online class. But you want to also pay attention to due dates and assignments, and also make sure that you are checking grades for my comments on your assignments so that you can revise if necessary, resubmit as necessary. Okay. So, just to wrap up with this introduction to week 5, you'll be focusing in on analysis, you'll be focusing in on the three rhetorical appeals of ethos, pathos, and logos. Also, pay attention to each page as you're moving along in this week. Don't skip pages and don't skim. Read thoroughly, okay? Of course, you should have all gotten back your my comments on your very short story. If you haven't, I'm getting to those because maybe possibly they were submitted late. So I'll get to those as quickly as possible, but keep up the great work. I was sincerely impressed by your very short stories, how you all were able to move from the reflection to the very short stories. Some were humorous. I was actually laughing out loud. Some of them were quite sad. I had to, pause for a minute as I was reading some of them because I got caught up in my emotion, which is it's a great thing that you were able to communicate that emotion, but of course, it's not a great thing that these incidences happened. Okay, but I appreciate your willingness to be open and to share with myself and with your peers. And I appreciate your participation in peer review, which is often a very integral part of the writing process, but a very private part because you're opening yourself up to critique. But again, thank you for participating in peer review. I really appreciate it. I know your peers also appreciated your participation and willingness to share. So I will just end this intro into week 5 by saying, keep up the great work. I really appreciate all the work that you've done so far. And I, look forward to reading your work this week and the upcoming weeks. Okay. All right, thanks y'all, and I will be probably uploading another video sometime next week, okay? All right, thanks y'all. Bye.